You want to do the intro, Ming?
Yeah, so here we are talking about microtransactions, loot
Oh
boxes,
man.
cosmetics. And this is not a brand new problem.
No,
This is a long time problem.
I mean, microtransactions in terms of like game assets, what occurred on the early Xbox 360?
Horse armor
Yeah.
was an early pioneer, but I'd say it goes even further back than
Well, yeah, on
that. I'd say,
PC.
yeah, it's stuff like the World of Warcraft auction house.
Hmm. Now, where do you stand in terms of like the CS:GO skin trade community and things like that?
There's an argument to be made that CS:GO has existed for a long time. Their cosmetics have existed for a long time. The Steam marketplace benefits its players by letting them trade and sell their skins and providing real incentive for these loot boxes. But like the difference lies always in drop rates, how money is handled, addictive nature, and just overall responsibility from the company hosting these things.
I have a weird opinion here. And it, I'm sure you're going to want to interject, but please allow me to finish my thought, okay?
Okay.
I feel like okay, I don't agree with the skin community. I don't agree with the trading of skins, and I agree with you in the sense of gambling and things like that, of course. However, I grew up in a time period when video games awarded you for your skill. And I know this is kind of a boomer thing to say. Like, I remember getting gold skins in Call of Duty and things like that. And I'm okay with some aspects of the loot crate stuff. However, I think it's an extremely overpriced gambling issue. $5 for a key to open a box is ridiculous. I
So let's
think,
go back to where
well,
this
hang
really
on.
started. I'm gonna
Hang
go
on.
into it because
Hang on. Let me finish my sentiment. I feel personally that at the end of a match of Call of Duty or CS:GO or something like that, you should be awarded with in-game currency, and you should not be able to purchase in-game currency. You should be able to use that in-game currency to get keys with the opportunity to also purchase keys at a much lower price. I know it would affect the bottom line of many of these companies using these live service models, but it would be more ethical. Okay, I'm done.
yeah. Okay, so I have a thought, right? I grew up as microtransactions were beginning to boom on console the most. The Xbox 360 was the place for microtransaction shit. And Activision, as much as they claimed in later years that they didn't need microtransactions because they made popular games, were always pioneering microtransactions. They sold skin packs and card packs for their games
Hmm.
for like $15 for a singular skin and a banner, right? And those were that was a practice that was long running for them.
Hmm.
They arrived up on Advanced Warfare finally with the introduction of the loot box, and Overwatch came out around the same time. And things got way out of hand. And every other company started watching Activision rake in more money than available. And in a panic, I almost assumed this is how it went down. In a panic, assuming there wouldn't be enough money for the rest of them, they all started flocking to the idea of the loot box, and it overthrew everybody for a while. So that became like this games as a service model that we see now that bred games like Anthem that failed and died immediately. Whereas, like, it works for free to play games, it does not work for paid premium experiences.
Can I interject real quick to make a point to people? If you are choosing to opt to buy a PlayStation 5 and you do not like live service models, I need to make something very clear to you. They have already announced that the PlayStation 5 will have 10 live service games available before 2026. This means the PlayStation will be the platform for live service models. If that is not something you like, please choose a different route. Go ahead.
Yeah. Even as a fan of even if you were a fan of that console, if you're not a fan of having to pay more money for a game you paid money for, probably don't get that console.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there.
Get a PC.
Yeah. I hope Sony sticks to what they say. I hope they keep Bungie an independent studio and let them release their games on PC like they have been moving a lot of their games to PC lately.
Yes.
The, Activision is a dying company because of their terrible practices. And
Yes.
there's a whole topic, the buyouts happening and the all of the deals going on that we don't even know about and the announcements and things. And there's just a lot happening behind the scenes in video games in the industry right now. But going back to what loot boxes and live service games were, we have reached a point now where companies like Activision, in lieu of live services for a very short period, started producing okay and decent games again just to fill a void. You know what the real problem is? We continue to play these games. The same time these live services are coming out, indie games are doing way better. Black Ops 4 came out, and I would have much rather played Hellblade. I don't even like Hellblade. I think it's long, I think it takes forever, and I still think it would have been a better experience at the time. While I was busy playing God of War at the time because it was a better experience. There
I
were better experiences, and the reason that loot boxes got bad is because we kept getting the games that were selling them.
yeah. I mean, that's one of the biggest problems with mobile games is the whales who are buying into these games and buying these loot boxes. And mobile games could be good. Like, we know for a fact that portable games is massive. Everybody has a phone, but they choose not to put out good games because they know that these games with these buy-in models work and make money.
Yeah, they work. People get into them because that's just how they are.
People are
I
so
do the GTA
surprised.
Shadow Legends joke every time. Fuck.
Yeah. But when I say you could play Max Payne on your phone or GTA San Andreas, people are so surprised. They don't know that real games exist on these mobile phones, and you can get controllers for your phone. You can, and they're awesome.
Dead Space,
Dead
an
Space.
amazing mobile game.
It, it's kind of upsetting because Google is making an effort right now to release a PC client for their games. But the biggest problem with it is if Google releases a PC gaming client, more and more people are going to have access to these games with massive amounts of loot boxes, and it will affect the industry.
Yeah. And the more people buying into loot box games with addictive practice, the less people play games that put in time, effort, and really show off the quality and advancement of video games. I was watching the Game Awards last year, and I watch the Game Awards every year with the same
Mhm.
attitude. I don't really care for Jeff Keighley. A lot of the decisions are very rigged, and if you read how the voting works, you know that for a fact.
Yes.
The judges make the decisions based on their ideals at the time, and it's mostly for marketing's sake. So I watch the Game Awards every year for the reveals and the things that go on. And many of the reveals I saw at the Game Awards last year were underwhelming. Not only were they were underwhelming from the top names in the industry. Devolver Digital came out. Every time Devolver Digital comes out, they do something epic and incredible. They're a standout company among a crowd of real AAA trash.
And just to add to that, Devolver Digital produced a game called Scum, and it is easily the best survival game ever. So go play it. Go ahead.
They have tons of retro indie games, if that's your thing. They have tons of actual regular games that are really good, if that's your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow Warrior 3 is
Oh,
coming out.
so good.
Like,
So
there's a
excited.
lot going on in the Devolver Digital front. There's indie games like Celeste get recognized, and I always feel better because Celeste was a masterpiece.
So good. Have you played the 8-bit version?
Yep, it's
So
very
good.
good.
So good. I How do I put this? I don't mind in-game currency as much as I mind things like, oh, loot boxes, random chance, rolling the dice. Like, if I know what I'm buying, okay. I would prefer for there to be a way for me to unlock it through skill-based gameplay and putting in the time, because I feel like buying things just means you're taking away from the gaming experience.
You say that, and I feel like that's kind of why I like a game like Valorant. Every individual agent in Valorant has their own unique mission set that you do not need to buy into, and you're rewarded for your skill. And all of the items from the Battle Pass are totally unique to Battle Pass. All of the items from just the cosmetic shop are totally unique to that.
Yep.
When you buy into the $10 into its Battle Pass, you're playing for skill anyway, because you're just paying for a season's worth of content to work your way through.
Yeah, it
You have
gives
to
you an
still be
objective.
good at the game. The better you are at the game, the more games you top, the better you perform, the more experience you get, the more your battle pass increases.
Absolutely.
When I found out that that's how the formula worked, I was like, hell yeah, keep doing that. I don't really agree with the cosmetic shop, but they sell a ton of cosmetics.
Yeah.
So who am I to
Well, I
judge?
mean, it's Riot Games. What do you
It's a
expect?
free to play game too. That's
Yeah,
the huge difference here. It's not a AAA experience that I've already paid $60 for.
it's a mobile game.
Yeah, it's a mobile game.
No,
It's
what
it's what would be a good mobile game.
when I say I have an issue with Valorant, it isn't Valorant itself. Valorant itself is a fine game with a decent model. What I have a problem with when I talk about Valorant is it's just more of the same.
Yeah. It's more repetition in a world where we already have it.
They looked at Overwatch, they looked at Paladins, and they looked at CS:GO and they said, "Oh, we can do that."
Yeah, but the character designs aren't quite Overwatch. You know, they did hero stuff with League of Legends. Riot Games was like were like the first people to do hero based MOBA stuff,
Yeah.
right? They didn't copy Overwatch. That's a common misconception. Overwatch copied them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I'm saying is Valorant it took
Is CS:GO.
inspiration. I'm not saying copy it, they took inspiration.
They're heroes, the hero methods. Even if you want to get like really into it, a game like Smite would be where stuff like that would stem from.
I think Pongye, I forgot how to pronunciate his name. Pongye, what's his name?
Young, yeah,
Youngye, thank you. Um, said it the best. These are hero shooters,
yeah.
and
That's what they are.
that's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of hero shooters. I have been
You
playing
hate
them.
hero shooters.
I played CS 1.6 competitively when I was 12 years old. I am good. It has been 16 years. No, not 16 years. It's been a long time.
Fortress 2.
Team Fortress 2, yeah. Yeah, same thing. I played probably 300 hours of that game and I was like, I'm done. I'm good. And then I liked Call of Duty because it wasn't a hero shooter. And then they
Black
were.
Ops 4 came out
No,
and it
no,
was a
no.
hero shooter.
I was just like, oh, man.
Black Ops 3 came out and it was a hero shooter.
Battlefield 2046 initially was a hero shooter. And I was like, no. It's bad. It's unbalanced. It's not fun.
You remember when every video game ever was doing cops and robbers and then Battlefield was like hardline?
Yep. Hardline was fucking garbage. I don't care what anybody says. But back to the point, like, I don't mind a free game having a season pass. Like, you're buying into a season pass. Where my issue lies is like, it's a 1 month season pass. Like, people have lives.
What
People have jobs. Like,
what
people go to
happened to the
school.
old days? What happened to the old days when the DLC that we downloaded was almost equal in size to the game we were playing?
Right.
When that season pass gave you access to multiple things for a single game, that made that game hundreds of hours more enjoyable.
And you're not implying that that's gone. You're just implying that it's lacking.
It's lacking a lot. A game like Saints Row 3 would come out with a ton of DLC and add entirely new mission lines. And they weren't the longest things in the world, but they weren't the most expensive DLC either.
No, they were like
They
10
made
bucks.
sense for what they were. Yeah. Old school expansion packs for stuff like The Sims, the original Sims from Maxis Games and EA in the early days. The original Sims had 5 expansions, all of which were very good, equal in size to the original game.
Then you have the modern Sims where everything's like 30 bucks and they're
Yeah.
dishing it out monthly and it's just tiny packs. I mean, look at the Evil Within.
There's DLC for their DLC.
Yeah.
That's how far they've come.
Um, a good example is like the Evil Within. Evil Within is one of the few games that is very modern that I can say had DLC that was worth it. Control is another one where the DLC was worth it.
Every Elder Scrolls game, every Fallout game.
Yes. Yes.
They
Yes.
had They had brand new world spaces, tons of shit to see. Fallout New Vegas had some of the most impressive DLC I've ever seen because not only had they worked so hard to make a game that they didn't get to finish and they made it almost finished and it was great. They got to come back for a long time and put a lot of effort into these other stories to tell this amazing story about the courier and the wasteland. This thing that they had been building up to the entire time.
Can I tell
The
you a
scope of
boomer
it all was
story?
massive.
You want to hear a boomer story?
Sure.
I remember back when Halo 2 got the multiplayer disc. I don't know if anybody knows this. I know you would know about this, Red, but back on the Xbox OG Halo 2, there were two completely different onlines, and the I think they had it available to download at one point, but there was a separate disc where the multiplayer had more maps, and that was my first ever experience with quote unquote DLC.
The first DLC I technically had experience with would have been Fallout New Vegas. I played a copy of Fallout New Vegas Ultimate Edition in 2012 with its second disc that had all of its expansions and everything that went with it.
We have a guest, as you know,
Hi, Chris.
and Chris likes business, and we were gonna ask him. We didn't know when he was gonna join. Um, Chris, what up?
Yeah,
We're
what's up,
talking loot
man?
boxes and microtransactions.
Don't
So,
put that evil on me.
Chris is the youngest of our little group that we talk to regularly. What is your experience with loot boxes, growing up when you did and being the type of gamer you are? Give
I
people
mean,
reference
I
though,
definitely,
obviously.
I definitely saw the switch. I mean, you know, I definitely saw the sort of rise of the mobile game money suck mechanic type of deal. Um, I was around for horse armor. Um,
But
it,
The same things I was around for. It's, we very similar time period.
you're like 4 years older than Chris, right?
No.
No, three?
My God, how old do you think I am?
21.
I'm 20. I'm going to be 22 this year, actually.
I know. I remember your birthday.
2020.
Um, what is your stance exactly, like from a business perspective with the loot crate and everything? Like as an ethical decision, would you as a business person make that decision to put that in a game?
I always said it depended on the game. If your game is, say, like a $30 or $60 game that I'm already paying, an upfront cost for, I'm not going to support your loot boxes. I think putting loot boxes in an already paid game are stupid. If it's a free game, um, like, what's the I think
I
it's
used
called
Valorant as an example.
Pillars of Eternity.
Okay.
Pillars of Eternity is good.
um they have microtransactions. If your game is free and you need to have like server space or whatever, then I understand putting in microtransactions. Maybe not loot boxes, but definitely microtransactions. But if your game is already paid and you have microtransactions, loot boxes in there that don't add anything like say like additional content like DLC, then I don't support it in the slightest.
So, Red, I have a question for you. I guess I'm just gonna do like an intervent viewer stance at this point, because I've pretty much made my opinion pretty clear. They're all bad. Don't support it. Um, if you were to buy microtransactions, do you set a limit on what you will spend?
I will spend no more than $10 on a season's worth of Battle Pass if I like that Battle Pass. I have bought a couple of sets of Apex packs once or twice because they've been extremely cheap for a fair amount of them. And it's, the stuff that I get from them is stuff that I wouldn't have pulled from just playing the game. playing a game like Apex where I walked into it for my friends, knowing that I wasn't going to get any better at it, wasn't going to unlock anything, even if I did get better at it, it didn't really provide much initiative to go looking for a reason not to. It was worth paying the money for. I played enough of it that I felt like I owed the devs the money for it, but that's about the extent of it. Microtransactions have a time and a place, and it is not anywhere near a paid game, and most of the time your free-to-play games don't do them right.
Fair. I mean, that's a fair statement. Chris, what about you? Do you set a limit for yourself, or do you avoid it entirely?
I mean, way I see it is like if I'm having a fun time with the game, I'll drop maybe like, 10, $20 on something here or there, like once in a blue moon, but I think it's also important that to realize that transactions and loot boxes do prey on addictive personalities, and that is definitely something the industry needs to address.
Interesting. Now, I play a mobile game called Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle. I have been playing it for going on 4 or 5 years now. I have probably spent $200 in this game because I really enjoy this game, right? And I don't mind every now and then participating in some of the events and things like that, which you have to pay to enter, or buy dragon stones to do event polls and things like that. But it does upset me greatly that I could spend $60 to $120 and not get anything out of it. Um, it really annoys me that I'm not given the opportunity to get cards and characters without buying into it. As somebody who wants to participate in the competitive events and things like that, I don't feel comfortable investing money into it like that. Now, I want to turn the table real quick and talk about trading card games. Would you say participating in something like Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh is similar to loot boxes?
No, not even
Yeah, no.
close. Loot
Inter-
boxes exist in something inside of something you have already spent money on, right? Whereas anybody at any time can go buy a trading card booster pack because they got a wild hair up their ass. And it's not something that you're not going to use. It's not something that you can't hold. It's not something that you couldn't give away and get something else for.
Red's right in that. I mean, I respect that thought process. Chris, you said no as well. Do you want to elaborate?
Majority of trading card games, you have a physical product. Um, with loot boxes, it's a digital line of code that goes away if the game gets shut down. With something like Magic the Gathering card, you have that as long as you have.
So
I
I want to deviate real quick. So any of you guys that are out there watching right now, I'm gonna give you a pro tip as somebody who has been a regional competitive Pokemon player in the past. Um, you can go out to the store and you can buy 2 to 3 starter packs, not booster packs, but full decks, and literally just strip the best cards out of them and have a competitive viable deck. It is that easy. Do not fall for the booster pack scam. Thank you. That has been my TED talk. um, who do you think is the most egregious with the loot boxes these days? And
EA.
I agree.
EA 100%.
Now,
No.
none of us are EA fans here, correct?
Nope.
Do you have a game that you regularly play that has loot boxes?
These days?
Yeah.
Valorant is probably the closest one that I play.
Yeah, and that doesn't have loot boxes. That just has its battle pass system and
Yeah.
the cosmetic shop.
Oh, also, I'm sorry. I'm getting word from above. No. Modern Pokemon. packs will have cards in them that have codes on them. These codes will also work in Pokemon TCG, which is an
I know I
online
have
fighting game.
stacks of these codes just sitting in my room that I have done nothing with.
Just a shout out to our viewers. If you want to play Pokemon in real life and digitally, they have made it seamless for you to do both.
That's a very interactive experience. Trading cards have a real purpose to them. They are a part of a much larger game that's constantly growing and evolving. When you buy trading cards, you're not buying the game itself. You're not buying into something that you have to spend money elsewhere on already. You buy a starter deck and you could probably run that starter deck if you were smart enough through everything you needed it to.
When I
You
went
start
to
trading around, you
competition,
never have to spend money again.
when I went to competition, there was a Shaman starter deck that was on clearance. It was $8 for the clearance deck, right? So I bought two of them. Do you want to know what I got third place running?
That shaman deck.
That Shaman deck. Just to,
Even a starter deck can do you a world of good in a trading card game.
it's just removing the bloat cards and replacing them with the ones that you need. You just need to build the deck to get you the cards that you need faster than your opponent 90% of the time. Until you get into like nationals, they will 100% work for you in regionals. But here's the huge thing. I mentioned TCG for a reason. Loot boxes have no fiscal return and are overpriced, correct?
Yee.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So in what scenario would you say loot boxes would be acceptable?
Never. We
Yeah.
need to
Never.
address the real crux of the problem. Loot boxes have leached their way into real life. You can get loot boxes for your food.
What?
What?
There are food delivery services that will deliver random things to you that
Hard
you
pass.
subscribe to monthly.
Hard
You
pass.
can get food loot boxes. There was the original loot crate that gave you nerd gear and stuff. They were a loot box for stuff.
Yeah, but those were physical products.
Yeah, they
Like
were
at least.
physical products. There was a little bit of a difference, but how much difference was it really when they were mass produced?
Yeah, your item
Yeah.
doesn't really worth isn't really worth
Everybody
anything.
got the same things. That
Yeah.
was just it. What you paid for was random by the month, and you had to be happy with whatever everybody got that month. There was no trading. There was no difference between people getting their loot crates.
And then the
And maybe
market,
maybe there was, but it was so minimal.
the market
I am.
becomes oversaturated as well, don't forget. So even if you wanted to sell an item, it's probably worthless.
Mm-hmm.
I am more. I don't like Loot Crate, but at least with Loot Crate, you're actually getting a physical item, unlike the loot
Chris,
boxes where you get a digital one.
Chris, Chris. Nobody likes Loot Crate. That's why they're a failed company that doesn't exist.
There are many loot crate copies out there that do everything from nerd gear to horror gear to food. And loot boxes have leached their way into real life, and it began at the same time as loot boxes in video games. You can trace that history back. You can fact check me. They began nearly identically at the same time.
Now, when I worked in the arcade, and I want your opinion on this, we used to do blind boxes. And, you would put in 5 video games and then one, rarer title. And the thing was, though, is my boss was very particular on what went into that box. And he made sure that if you were to return every single title, you would get roughly the exact same money that you spent on those games back. And I always thought that was a very ethical way of viewing it. How do you feel
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. Having a return option, a way to be like, nah, I'm not too happy with that. I'd rather keep mine is a good way to go.
Yeah.
So let's say tomorrow a game comes out. It's a first person shooter that has no cosmetics unlockable in game, only purchasable. However, the loot box system is 50 cents. However, there is also a store where you can purchase said cosmetics directly. But if you buy exactly what you want, it's $5. How would you
That
feel?
is that is the exact opposite approach companies are taking. it's not a one side or the other argument. There's an argument to be made for cheaper loot boxes existing somewhere and having a place, but only in certain situations. If there's no player choice involved, then it defeats the purpose. I mean, if you can't decide whether you want to unlock stuff or buy stuff and get different things for those decisions, what's the point?
Addiction.
Exactly. And that's, there needs to be a reason, a real reason to have them. And there just hasn't ever been a game with a real reason to have any loot boxes in them.
I go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Other than
I
if you are validating your implementation of loot boxes based on things that equate to value for shareholders, you have fundamentally failed at making a game. It is meant to be art. If you want to create software that makes money, perhaps you should be in the enterprise software market instead of making video games.
So the reason why I
Okay.
presented that question is not because that's how I feel. Um, at the beginning of this conversation, I did bring up something similar. But I just want to make it very clear to people that is not something I advocate. I want to eliminate loot boxes entirely. I want to bring back skill-based equipment because it gives you something to work towards. It gives you a reason to play a game. I feel that when I open up a video game today, I'm not achieving anything. I'm losing that perception of progress that I talk about pretty
And you
often.
wonder why I play games on the hardest difficulty.
No, I don't wonder at all. I don't wonder at all. I completely understand. 100% I do. I just don't always agree with that decision.
No, yeah, sometimes there's a time and a place for it. And I just don't always agree with the time and the place.
Uh, I'm going to give a quick throwback. And of course it's Silent Hill because I can't go an episode without mentioning Silent Hill.
Oh my god.
I know.
Silent Hill again.
Your first experience with Silent Hill, with me in particular, was on the highest difficulty. And the first thing I said was, don't play it on the highest difficulty.
I had problems with the mumblers, right? And
Mhm.
I really, as a designer, can equate that to design.
Yes.
The way you handle getting around them is very dated.
Uh-huh.
I granted, my fault. It took a while to get around. I got around it eventually. In a game like Stubbs the Zombie, where the AI was broken, overpowered, and there was no balancing, on the other hand, playing on the hardest difficulty revealed very quickly just how many things weren't right.
Right.
In a game like Silent Hill, I can get past just the mumblers being bad on the hardest difficulty. Whereas in a game like Stubbs the Zombie, I couldn't get past the entire game being made to be way unfair to the player. I get it, it's comedy, but
Yes.
the death is only funny so many times.
I just wanted to real quick mention that because the argument I'm going to state is World at War, Call of Duty World at War, gave you a reason to beat the game on Legendary because you unlocked things that allowed you to flex on people multiplayer. You got to show off. I am a veteran player. You should fear me in combat.
Games historically use their hardest difficulties to convey true endings. You would never really see the final cutscene until you played it on its hardest difficulty. Kingdom Hearts Final Mix is
Uh-huh.
a great example of that.
And I guess what I'm saying is this concept, which I think is so good, I haven't seen in a while, and it makes me sad.
Skill.
I think the only place I really see it these days is like indie games. That's about it. But yeah. So I don't. I'm okay with DLC. DLC is fine, but I want a finished product before I get DLC. Something like the Pokemon Arceus just came out. The end game is literally the biggest grind I have ever seen, just so they have time to pad out their DLC. They knew.
When I get DLC. I want DLC that's worth fucking getting.
Yes. Yes.
That makes sense for its price.
I know Red's going to disagree here. So please allow me to finish the sentiment. I think the Breath of the Wild DLC was so good.
Don't even care. Breath of the Wild's a bad game.
I love that game. I love the dichotomy here. Chris, you're recently experiencing Skyrim, right? Did you get the special edition?
Uh, I got the anniversary edition, which I am having a blast with, and
Now,
I think it's.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, no,
No,
no,
you
no,
go ahead.
no, nope. You.
No, you.
No, you. Uno reverse.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Fine. Hammer.
You had
Um,
one job.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I do apologize, though.
no, please go ahead.
Oh my
I
god.
forgot what I was gonna say.
What I was gonna say is I understand the meme is that Skyrim has been re-released 1,000 times at this point. Play it on your fucking fridge. You can play it on your Alexa. And if you don't know, Skyrim is free to play with your Alexa. Just say Alexa, play Skyrim, and it will play it. Skyrim is one of those games where the DLC example is actually good.
I
Yeah.
agree.
You want to
Now with the Legendary Edition, the Anniversary Edition, the reviews lied to me. They said that the content wasn't that great, that most of it could be gotten through the mod browser, that it wasn't a very expansive fix, that not a lot was done for it, but they implemented a ton of regular fixes that Bethesda should have implemented ages ago, gave everybody the entire Creation Club, and that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Not the entire Creation Club wasn't available free to the public through the mod browser or through mods on the Nexus. That just isn't how it works.
Gamers rise up. Creation
It was
Club
a
shouldn't
very
have been free content from the beginning.
Yeah, it should have been. And I can see the argument that Skyrim Legendary should have just been a content upgrade for special edition players. But it's if you were to spend the money on everything in the Creation Club versus the money that they offer you to spend for that upgrade for the game, it's like an $80 difference.
And even if you just
You
account
get
for all the
so
Creation Club, it's like another $500 or something.
Yeah.
Which, if I may, if any of you guys are watching, liked modded content or play with modded files and things like that, please support
Hate
those
mods are bad.
programmers. Please
If
support
hate
them.
mods are bad, donations good.
Yes. Please donate to those creators and let them know that you appreciate their work.
Everybody go check out Skywind and Skyblivions because those are legendary projects years in the making.
Anything. I honestly want to just say anything. I have
Miami, New California, good mods.
I use RGI to make my video game streams look more cinematic to add ray tracing to games that don't have ray tracing. I pay for that.
Reshade.
It's free.
Reshade is fucking a great guys working on Reshade all the time.
And it's completely free. I decided to pay for it. I want them to continue their work because it's so good. So please, if you play a mod and it's like incredible, please support those people. They deserve it. I'm playing Arceus, like I said, and all of the mods that I'm using are free, but I chose to donate to them because they were literally quality of life fixes that make the game so much better.
I will never work on a game with loot boxes, I think is my final thing to say.
Oh, I was gonna put loot boxes in Cradle.
No, stop. I will
no.
end that idea right now where it stands.
Dude, how?
Loot box dialogue option. So you wanted that dialogue option? Nope.
That'll be
Days of
$1.
Walking Dead, now with loot boxes.
Also, I would like to apologize for giving EA that idea. In 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 foresight. Just so I have that preemptive apology down when they decide to release loot box dialogue options.
Dude, they're gonna release a loot box game where you have to like
You
get the
remember that
files out of
time
a loot box.
Konami sold save files?
Oh my god. Yes. If I may, can I turn the table and provide a new conversation?
Yes.
Okay. Um So games like Life is Strange and things like that were episodic releases. Um, I understand that in some aspect the game was still being worked on and they were releasing these chapters because they really wanted the game to be fleshed out because it was a lot of work. I personally am okay with episodic games as long as it becomes worthwhile. How do you feel about them?
If it's good, if it's of an acceptable quality, if it is a fun game with interesting mechanics, I don't have a problem with whatever medium it takes.
Red,
Sorry, I walked away for a second.
did you hear the question?
No,
I said, I don't mind episodic games as long as the episodic titles are worth my time. How do you feel?
agreed. I loved The Wolf Among Us. It's an amazing game. Was worth every dollar I spent on it.
Here you go. What about Siren Blood Curse? Just
That
kidding.
just wasn't a good game.
And he still had to churn it out. I gotta say, the creator of Siren Blood Curse, congratulations on getting out of that and making Slitterhead. I'm very excited to see your projects in the future.
Very excited.
Uh, I
Very excited.
I believe Ghostwire Tokyo is another game where the creator was stuck in hell prior because he was working on episodic games. I might be wrong there, but
Just don't become a KG and a Fune. Message to devs. Don't ever do that.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Say this situation was occurring, but episodic games were normalized. How would you feel?
I would feel like I would play a lot less games.
Yeah,
I don't think everything should be episodic. Not everything needs to be episodic. I like sequels, believe it or not.
fair.
I think there's a specific type of game that benefits from episodic, and that there should be game uh, that benefit just solely from a complete release.
Alone in the Dark 2009, episodic, you don't have to pay for the episodes individually, but the flow is interrupted the entire time because you're switching episodes after every chapter. What the fuck is that about?
It's bad game design. It's just bad game design. Um, I'm kind of in a weird boat here where uh I feel like games like the dark anthology, whatever the fuck they call it,
The Dark Pictures anthology.
they would personally benefit from episodic releases because they could really flesh things out deeper. That's kind of been one of my core issues
What
with
do you mean deeper? Man of Medan has 18 endings. Little Hope has like 32 or something like that.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is the pacing and everything just is. This is obviously subjective here.
Imagine like a Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventure book in video game format.
I have one and I plan on playing it, just so you know. And it's also point and click. You're gonna love it. Yeah, and it's I think a recent release too. Um, what was my thought? It isn't that the games are bad. I know I rip on these games often, but they're not bad. They're fun to watch and they're fun to play. And especially with groups of people like yelling decisions out amongst each other, very fun. I played them with my family and they had a great time with them. And I don't know. I just feel like sometimes you're just meandering and it bores me. But this is definitely a subjective opinion here because things like Life is Strange are fine to me. Captain Sparkle was fine. They're not phenomenal, but whatever.
Seriously though, The Wolf Among Us, masterpiece.
Yeah, go play Wolf Among Us. And it's available on mobile. It just came out on mobile. It's so good. Lay in bed. Lay in bed and just chill. But okay, we turn the table, we have answers, but we need to change the conversation. So on the previous episode, we were discussing how we felt about video games, what got us into video games, and Chris was not available at that period of time for a quick interview, which we had kind of planned beforehand. So we're gonna kind of transition into that. So Chris, what we were talking about is our childhood, what got us into video games, the emotional investment that we have in video games and things like that. So I just have a series of questions that I would really like to hear from you because I feel like it's really important, like as friends, that we know these kinds of things. So
Yeah.
I already know quite a lot about your childhood and your upbringing, your history with your parents and things like that. So if you don't feel like comfortable answering those questions, just say so. It's fine. Red felt more
Alright.
comfortable. Blah blah blah. And I read you said you had a few questions for him as well, correct?
Yeah, I have a few pertaining to like specific taste and thing.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, so you play a shit ton of real-time strategy games. Is there
Yeah.
like a place where that comes from? Is there any specific reason for that? What
Um,
game began that for you?
chess. Um,
Oh,
I loved chess growing up. My stepfather taught me chess. I was part of the chess team in middle school. Um, and then I discovered real-time strategy games. I don't remember what my first real-time strategy game was. I feel like it was probably something like Crusader Kings 2 or something, I guess. Um, if you could call it, I guess, yeah, you could call
it's
that
semi
real
world
time
time strategy.
strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and I was like, okay, it's basically you take the, decision-making process of chess and you add like 3 layers of complexity on it, and I loved it. So I've always been fond of the genre.
Huh.
interesting.
When did you start deviating away from real time strategy and choosing to experience other titles?
I've always played a mix of titles. I suppose I focused more heavily on real-time strategy once I got a PC because of just the sheer amount um of real-time strategy that was like available to me at that point.
Yeah.
Um, but probably within the
Hmm.
3 or so years, I've definitely been playing a more wide variety of games.
Well, that's interesting because I've known you for about 3 years.
Yeah.
Have we influenced your decision to experience other titles?
Definitely. Cause I'll pop in VC and you're like, "Hey, here's this weird game and I'm like,
Gum,
"Oh,
for instance.
you like Scum?" Or I saw you playing Inscription and I was like, "Yep, write that down. Write that down."
And-
Totally accurate battlegrounds.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
there's like a 10% chance you're playing some weird ass shit, and I'm like, well, gotta go get that now."
Red, do you have another question? Okay.
What made you like want to play video games aside from chess? Like what ultimately led up to you deciding you wanted to play video games?
I was bored. I didn't have many friends growing up, so I was like, fuck it, I'll get an Xbox. If I remember correctly, I received an Xbox 360 for, I don't remember what Christmas it was, but it was back when it like first really came out, I guess. Um, it had the Connect and everything, that horrible, horrible black bar that never could track anything.
Oh, I loved it.
Um, yeah, it was great. And I played, I played the first Assassin's Creed, Skyrim, all
Just
that stuff.
games of pop culture at the time, things that were
Yeah,
easily available,
Yeah,
recommended, that fit your tastes. Like,
Call of Duty.
yeah,
so it was
Call of
just a
Duty.
really natural, like, got into it kind of experience.
Yeah, yeah,
That's interesting to me because knowing you now, as somebody who enjoys RTSs and medieval RPGs and things like that, I would have never really taken you for somebody who chose to experience Xbox first, knowing now that you were really into chess and things like that. It just seems like such a deviation. So I guess can you elaborate on like your emotional reasoning for choosing these games? Like, was there a loneliness that was subsided by meeting people in multiplayer experiences or anything like that?
Um, Part of the reason why I chose, I guess, Xbox initially is because one, it was on sale, and money was an issue back then.
Mhm.
And two, there was a GameStop like 10, 15 minutes away from my house. So, I remember every Saturday, give or take, I always went and checked out to see what was on sale or available. Um,
I was the
and
same
I
way.
was like, oh, Skyrim is like 7.99 or whatever. I'll pick that up.
That
So
explains the real-time strategy games a little bit. They kind of pop in at way cheaper prices than a lot of other games do. They go on sale a lot.
yeah, they do. How
Yep.
long were you? Because you had a PC before we were friends. I helped you get your new one, obviously, because I want you to be interested in technology, because I want to inspire you to do better. Blah blah blah. Um, when did you choose to become a PC gamer? And was RTS your main motivation?
A big part of it was wanting to do more with creative stuff. Um, the PC I had, if you could call it a PC, was uh more akin to a potato than an actual piece of hardware. Um, mm, it could run things kind of, but
Yeah, because even when you got that PC, it was kind of out of date at the time, correct?
yeah, but it was a major upgrade. And I'm sure you can attest that thing ran things it shouldn't have been able to run.
No, I mean it was
Um,
fine. I mean you were playing at 720p and low settings and things like that. You were doing what you had to do. But
but it got the job done.
I'm more interested in like what what went through your head
While
making
you were
that
playing
decision.
video games,
Yeah.
You mean like on my new PC?
No,
Or
no, just video games in general. What is your emotional connection to them? Do they have any significance in your life?
yeah, I mean, I've always viewed video games as art. Um, I've always looked at it rather holistically, I guess. You
Ballistic.
know,
Wow.
as a I've been involved in theater also since I was quite young. So looking at just this other form of art, I view playing video games in the same way another person may get enjoyment of going to, say, an art gallery or a museum.
Oh, okay. So that was another question that Red and I had shared. Is that one of the reasons why you don't have a huge catalog of video games and you spend thousands? I mean, you literally have thousands of hours in like Stellaris. Is that one of the reasons? Is just like this artistic masterpiece that is Stellaris?
Um, yeah. I think Stellaris as a game for me personally, and a lot of games from Paradox, I'm a big fan of Paradox games,
Same.
is just that they're very seamless. They have now, you can make all the jokes of bugs and random glitches you want,
Yeah,
yes,
but that's to
but
be expected from a game of that caliber.
yeah. Just the sheer amount of events and random shit that can happen. You have no idea what is going to happen in every single playthrough. Every single playthrough of a Paradox game, in my experience, has been unique and separate from every other experience like it before and after.
Now, Red, do you have a question before I ask mine?
no, you go ahead.
when we met and we started playing games together, we played Destiny 2. When you reflect on your experience with Destiny 2, uh, now you never really played by yourself. You really only tended to play with us. Do you reflect fondly on that kind of experience, or is it not really something that you would go out of your way today to even play?
I still reflect fondly on that experience. I think there's problems with Destiny too,
Of course.
but um, I'm if my friends want to play Destiny 2, I'm 100% down to play Destiny 2. At the end of the day, I think Destiny 2 is a good enough game to be enjoyable with friends. Um, and the enjoyment you can get just dicking around with your friends in Destiny 2 is definitely a major factor of why I would be 100% willing to go back and play it.
Hmm. Now, people need to know the background of us as friends, so I just want to real quick give context. When Chris and I became friends, he participated in 24-hour live streams with me. He participated in being a co-host on several live streams. You were participating in huge charity events that I was trying to hold. You were riling up the community to get support for charities that I was trying to get support for. Um, when when did because you were still playing a lot of RTS games at this time. I mean, even when we go back and we look at that kind of catalog of what we were playing, it was For the King, it was D&D stuff. Um, when did you decide that you were going to explore different genres of video games?
That is a question. Um, I don't feel like it was really a conscious decision. Um, it just more happened because of just the sheer volume of games that you and then eventually Red were playing. I was like, okay, some of these titles look interesting. So it's definitely more of a gradual creep, um, I suppose, that kind of wormed its way in and made me go, huh, so there are other games other than RTSs.
Now, when we met through a other streamer. I'm gonna shout him out, Seraphim. Seraphim is a Sonic speedrunner and several other game speedrunner you can find on Twitch. Extremely talented. Love his work. Awesome guy. Go support him. What got you interested in the speedrunning community in particular?
Um, I found Seraphim through a YouTuber that started Twitch streaming called Proving Pilot Attempts to Game.
Love Proving Pilots. Shout
Um,
out.
if back then, if I remember correctly, they were making, I'm pretty sure, some Skyrim content and some Sonic content, if I remember
I
correctly.
think it was
It's
Shadow the
um,
Hedgehog. I think it was Shadow the
I
Hedgehog
think it was
speedruns.
Shadow the Hedgehog. Um, and I watched them on Twitch, and they hosted Seraphim, and I was like, oh, this looks, rather interesting. And then he started doing all this weird stuff, just skipping across the level, and I was like, well, now I gotta watch this because I want to know what is going on. And that's how I got into speedrunning, just the sheer level of impressiveness uh, that he had when he was doing his runs.
And I have to ask because you're the only person I've ever met where they started on something like an Xbox and then played RTSs and then somehow found their way into the speedrunning community. And it's a very unique circumstance, but how do you view video games now, knowing that there is a massive community that is literally dedicated to doing things like that?
A lot more fondly, I suppose. It's at the end of the day, I think video games are um an incredibly important medium in bringing people together, multiplayer or not. You know, you'll have people, you know, conversing, uh, you know, based on what Skyrim build they're running or their favorite RPG or whatever. Video games have a very unique way of bringing people together, and it really improves your outlook, I suppose, when you realize that wow, these there are really just massive communities based around something as you know as I to a normal person odd as playing a video game as fast as possible,
Such an
and you really
interesting
don't
outlook.
think about it
Yeah.
until you actually see it in practice, and you're like, oh, holy shit.
Now,
Very technical.
no, okay. I've asked Red this, and if you guys don't know, Red did a blindfolded level 1 attempt of Sonic the Hedgehog, which was fucking awesome.
Except I
You
succeeded.
succeeded. That's right. Um, and Red also was running Resident Evil 4. We're gonna talk about that later, so I know you have a lot to say. um, it's a situation for sure. Um, when you found speedrunning, was it something that you were interested in running? If people don't know, I was a world record holder many times. I also did a blindfold completion of a game. Um, so Red and I both have that in common that we were runners, but I don't know if Chris has ever been a runner. Do you have an interest in running?
I do have an interest in running. Um, I've never ran anything before in the past. But I do have an interest. I have always sort of had an interest. Um, and seeing your Frostpunk speed run that you also held world records in, if I remember
I
correctly,
did, thank you.
um, made me realize that okay, so you can speed run game like Stellaris or Frostpunk. So I definitely have an interest.
Oh, so you're thinking about doing like an RTS mastery. Just be the
Yeah,
best ever at an RTS. That's interesting. Well, I completely support that. I would love to see that.
it's in the works.
So I was asking Red this. So like as a child, growing up, were there video games around you? Was there anything influencing you?
Yes and no. I had a quite odd circumstance where my parents were divorced and my mother hated games. She was the classic, you know, video games are the spawn of Satan, make you violent type of person.
Mhm.
And my dad was like, they're cool, you can play them. So I played video games on the weekend, with uh, at my dad's house, and then couldn't play video games with my mom, who I spend the week with.
Hmm. So, do you still reflect on the way your mother treated video games and share any of those sentiments?
Um, in a way, um, I've always been very vocal about the fact that I think video games are, you know, a form of art that they can definitely bring people together.
Mhm.
Uh, and you know, people may say, ah, video games cause violence. Even though there's tons of video games that are incredibly nonviolent, like Animal Crossing or uh, racing games, or you know,
You
whole
play Stellaris, that's all spreadsheets.
yeah, play Excel in space. You know, there's I don't think there's an argument at all for video games to make you violent. And that's definitely been shaped by my upbringing personally, I would say.
Do you consider yourself a gamer?
Yeah, I would say so. I would consider myself a more niche gamer. because of the titles that I play are predominantly um more indie RTS
I think we're all fairly
games.
niche gamers.
Yeah, we are. I think Chris is right here. I think we're all pretty niche gamers. And Red's right too. I mean, each one of us has our own taste. That's what's really interesting about our friendship is, none of us like exactly the same thing. We share sentiments, but usually we don't fully agree with each other.
Yeah, that's
Which is
true.
great.
I mean, our entire community, even like you look at somebody like Feeney. Shout out to Feeney, awesome streamer. He plays a lot of Tarkov and Call of Duty and multiplayer games, and doesn't play any single player games yet. Feeney is still one of my best friends, and I love hearing his opinion on multiplayer games and what he has to say because I'm not going to get that anywhere else. So when we talk about video games with each other, do you ever feel as though you're learning something and you want to experience something because of our conversations?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
Chris is the pinnacle of inspirationist. He takes inspiration from literally everything.
It's kind of awesome.
Thank you. You. Um, yeah, I mean, I've always been an advocate for keeping your mind open and for taking inspiration from anything you can.
And people don't know this, but we give Chris a lot of shit. We do. And it's because we believe in his projects and we want him to put it to form. So if you ever hear us doing that, just understand that we are extremely close friends. It's not in resentment, it's not in anger or malice. It's because we are that close that we can support him in a completely different way.
Yeah. They've been giving me shit for years.
And you wouldn't be here after 3 years if you thought we were being malicious.
Yeah. God, it really has been 3 years, hasn't it?
Yes, long time.
Uh,
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I commonly say we are best of friends. We might be internet friends, we might not have ever met, but we are best of friends.
and hey, you know what? Internet friends are real friends.
Uh,
Some of the closest bonds you can have with people can be over the internet,
oh yeah.
especially in the modern era of "Haha, better not go outside." Um, having close internet friends is really ideal. Um, just the fact that you can connect with somebody over such a long distance and know so much about them is truly not just a marvel of humanity, but also technology.
Do you feel like that was one of the biggest steps for you in video gaming was the communication, the ability to outreach? And I'm asking both of you.
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because it's weird because obviously I didn't have online gaming growing up. I was kind of coming to age when the internet was in its infancy. I remember AOL discs. I remember all of that. I remember when the first dual core came out and things like that. And, we had AIM chat and things like that. We didn't have text messages. We had no cell phones for a while. And I really marvel over what humans have accomplished with the internet and the open platform for people to do the things that we're doing. We are producing a podcast and discussing things with people who we met online who could probably never have met in regular circumstances. This entire situation is extremely interesting. It's amazing in a way because this is stuff that I remember seeing on like movies and I never thought was possible. And here it is. And that's kind of like an emotional thing. So, where do you stand thinking about this kind of stuff? Do you ever reflect on on this? Is it something that you can reflect on, or was it always a thing?
I mean, I reflect on it way. Sometimes I have, I guess you could say, like a flash of realization that there's like 7.7 billion people on the planet, and the likelihood of the events leading up to me joining this community, finding um the full guess you could say timeline of events was I found many a true nerd.
Mhm.
Through many a true nerd, I found Proving Pilot. Through Proving Pilot, I found Seraphim. Through Seraphim, I found you. And then I joined this community. And the likelihood of every single one of those events lining up perfectly to end with me being able to join this community and me, not just you, but Eden and Red and Danny and everyone in this community was such a minuscule percentage that it's insane that it happened.
Would you say this community's had a really big impact on your life?
100%. Um, I mean, I hang out here pretty much every day, at least a little bit, or at least try to. Um, I remember, dozens of conversations that I've had with, pretty much everybody in this community. Um, you know, um, and then going, I remember becoming a family rank and then, graduating to admin, and then being like, oh, I really am a long-standing member of this community.
Now you're an owner.
Yeah. Um, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I I would say this community is the best community. Um, I definitely the longest community I've been a part of on the internet. Um, and definitely a shining example of what an internet community can be.
Well, A, thank you. And also, Red, how do you feel about like this community and being a part of it? And I mean, you are so important to this community. When everything went down, you two were the ones to completely rebuild it from the ground up. You completely gave up a server to rebuild the servers. Like, th- what does this community mean to you now?
More than any other one I've been through throughout the years, maybe excluding My Little Pony and their community, but that's just the reasoning is different. Their impact would be equal to me. I've been here for I don't even remember how long now.
Do, do you reflect on this server and ever like
All the time.
wonder
I
how?
watched Chris evolve from a theater nerd into a musician and try so many. I watched you experience games that that your friends suggest to you that you would have never otherwise experienced. You very open minded to them, and they're open minded to you. People are always asking each other for help around the community. There's always a reason to speak to each other. People pop in and out. There's a real social coalescence here. It
Whoa.
means something.
I do appreciate that because when I initially started the Gamer Collective and I entered the internet foray, these were the kinds of things that I believed in. I believed that I would make friends like you guys, and I don't mean to get so emotional and heartfelt, but when you rebuilt the server, I cried about that. That was very emotional for me because it told me that my efforts weren't in vain. You know what I mean? It reminded me of why I started my YouTube channel and why I started reaching out. Um, and I guess to pass the sentiment along to people watching this is, if you want to be a content creator, if you want to produce something, if you're only looking at the numbers, you're going about it wrong. You
Good
need to
friends make a big difference.
you need to find that you need to find your good friends. You need to to reach out to the people who are in your comment sections constantly and let them know that they're appreciated. Because I mean, Red, we found each other through an Easter egg Discord, and we became the best of friends out of nowhere.
Yeah.
3 years ago. And now you're a host on my channel. You are a voice of reason to me. You put me in my place when I need to be put in my place, and it's never in malice. It's always to
Most
make
friends
each
do.
other better.
If your friends are telling you everything you want to hear all the time, they're not very good friends.
It's an echo chamber. Nobody needs an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm extremely grateful that I've met you guys. I'm very thankful for the things that you've done, the open-mindedness as well. And I hope that, our friendship blossoms and continues to grow forever, because obviously I don't want to lose you guys, Eden, or anybody in the server. I just want the server to grow and have more people be a part of it and be so caring and passionate and loving, because I feel like it's lacking these days on the internet.
I agree.
And these days.
Yeah. I mean, it's also incredibly impressive just how tight our community is when you really think about it too. I mean, um, with everything that happened with the old server and now the new server, pretty much any other community um wouldn't have survived that.
No,
Yeah,
no.
we have
Um,
a ton of almost everybody made it over.
Yeah.
yep. But we came through. We survived. Um, and that's just really a testament to how tight knit and close our community is, especially with the nature of it. Like we talk so much that we can instantly tell when something is off.
Oh, yeah. Red pops into a call, and I immediately know his emotional state right away, and I know how to discuss things with him to help him feel better. It is very important to me. I know when, you know, Red will come in and be like, "Oh, yeah, I just grabbed a bottle of wine." I know exactly what his day was like because we've been friends for so long. I know that he has something that he needs to talk about, and I try my best to be there. I mean, I'm not the greatest listener. I know I'm not the greatest listener. I mean, I'm autistic. I have a hard time reading the room, and I try to vocalize that because I want people to understand that I'm trying my best. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, same.
And everybody now, like, we know everybody's problems because we need to know those things for us to become closer. And now we have a podcast, and we're not afraid of that anymore. We're not ashamed of it anymore. And I love that about us because that was our hard work. I mean, Eden started college. I mean that's huge. I mean, I don't want to, say anything to him that he doesn't want to put out publicly, but I'm so proud of the things that he's accomplished, and I'm glad I could have been there to help him. And I guess there's always a selfish nature to it, and that's okay sometimes. The same thing with
We look
Chris.
out for ourselves just as much as we look out for each other.
Oh yeah. I mean, look at the Discord attack. You were like, we need to vocalize this, and what did we do? We rallied the entire community to make the word known.
Again, I got so far out there, I started rallying the public.
Yeah. It was a lot to do with our community voicing everything at the exact same time. All of a sudden it popped off. And we needed that quick traction to get the word out that there were a bunch of Discord hackers out there, and that's something that we as a group were able to do.
Collaboration.
Well, I didn't mean to get super emotional in the podcast, so if anybody felt uncomfortable with that, I apologize. But
I don't. I don't. Let your fucking emotions run.
oh,
Never apologize for feeling the way you feel.
whoa,
Being personal is a huge fucking part of it. How dare you apologize for
I
having feelings?
I am only apologizing if somebody felt uncomfortable. I'm not apologizing for how I feel or how we feel about each other or anything. I am proud of the relationship that I've grown and the work that I've done to build a community as beautiful as this. Other people find this kind of stuff cringe, and I find that
Who
pathetic.
cares?
I
Who
find that
cares?
pathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is
That's not worth
literally.
apologizing for. That's not the fault of you. That's the fault of them. This is your place, your opinion, your safe space for
Hmm.
the show. And if they are uncomfortable, that's not a you problem.
It's true. He's not wrong. See, he puts me in my place, like I said. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
um,
I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna turn the table and say, is there anything you want to add about your experiences with video games that you want to share with people to encourage them to explore more titles or anything?
I would say exploring more titles is definitely worth it. Coming from a person who pretty much has solely played RTSs, expanding your horizons is definitely a good thing. And something that I put off for too long. Um, so definitely expand your horizons. You won't regret it.
We might have one more person joining the call. I'm reaching out now to see if they want to talk. Um,
This would be a long episode.
yeah, but well, I mean, it's an important episode. This is a lot. This is like, we talked about loot boxes. We talked about the community of gaming. The importance of coming together as a community and making our voices heard. We've talked about the toxic stuff of the community, and he's here. Oh.
What's
Yeah.
So everybody, this is Fusion Eden. Go ahead.
Hmm?
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I'll say if we can we try to make it quick? We're actually in queue, me and my friends.
Oh no, that's fine. We're just gonna ask you a couple of quick questions.
What does the interview have to do with? I'm kind of
Oh, it's
very sudden.
not really an interview. It's more of just like your stance on everything that we're gonna ask.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so I guess we'll try to make this quick so people can know you a little bit better. If you guys want to know who Fusion Eden is, go check out his YouTube channel. He makes beautiful music, awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Um, so I guess number one, what was it that got you into video games in the first place?
Ah, shit, I don't know, bro. When I was younger, I just saw my brothers playing games and it looked fun, so I did it. That's pretty much as simple as it is.
That's
um,
see that it's so different from our experiences,
All
and
of
that
us.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so awesome.
because like how I got into games is one thing, but how I developed my own taste for the games I like is a different, is another.
Yeah, because you and your brother don't usually play the exact same games. You guys only really share a couple
Yeah,
titles.
exactly.
Interesting. Do you have an emotional connection to video games? Is there something about video games that just keeps you with it?
It honestly depended on the particular game. Like cause some things cause like when it comes to emotional connection, I feel like some things like are like say for example you play a story game
Mhm.
and the story game has like an underlying message that resonates with you and shit. So like you have an emotional connection with it because it like it affects you on a personal level or something like that. That was like one way I guess you could have an emotional connection, but the emotional connection, like one of my favorite games, Skyrim, that was like my favorite game. Like when I was a kid, I used to play that for like a year, however, like 2,000 hours. Probably like 3,000 hours. But anyway, so my point is like on Skyrim, I didn't have that, even though it was my favorite game, but it became personal because of how much I was interacting with the game. So I guess that's like a different way of looking at it, but there were games where I did feel like emotionally connected to, like because it was on like a personal level that affected me.
Um, Being a part of a gaming community and things like that, has that impacted your gaming taste? Have you been open to exploring different titles because of the community you participate in?
Uh, I want to say so, yeah, because definitely because there are a few games I just don't have a name off the top of my head, but there's a few games that not only I've tried because you recommended them, but like tried because someone else recommended them. You know what I mean? In those games, I end up liking, and they like affect my taste. Oh, I find out I like this kind of game, right? Find out I like this like whatever kind of genre. But then if I don't like it, I still learn more about my taste because I still find out that I don't like a particular genre, and I guess that helps as well with knowing.
And then the final question really is emotionally or how you feel um, with video game communities. How important was it to participate in the community for you? Was it something to remove loneliness, anything like that? Like, uh, yeah,
Would you like when you're asking, do you mean this particular community, or would you say like in gaming communities in general?
just your whole life. Like, what is the overarching emotional impact on who you are as a person?
I see. Well, the thing is, like, when it comes to communities for me, it's never about like the I guess what brings the community together, whether it's gaming or film or music or whatever the fuck, right? Or anime, because anime is also a big thing in my life. But
Yes.
it's more so the people and who they are exactly. Like when I think of you, Zev, I don't think of a gamer friend. I think of like a real friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and that applies to people who I don't know as well. Like fucking
Nuggy
you know,
and Meep and them people who don't
yeah,
participate
me
all the
and Nugget
time.
and shit. Yeah, they may not be like super close friends, but I like them. They are friends. You know what I mean? So I don't think of them as like gamer homies. I think of them as just homies, and I guess that's where my whole line of thinking fits into it because I don't. Yeah, I'm just more attracted to the people essentially than the games or what brings us together. I feel
Would
like
you
that's how it like more so should be.
would you say video games are one of the things that connect the community, or would you just say you roll the dice with the people?
Um, well, I feel like kind of gotta have both. Like if you have if you join a community for a particular reason, but they don't share the interest in that reason, then it kind of makes you feel like, why are you here? I guess in a sense, unless the people are really that great and they attract you that much. But also, it works the same way around. Like if you join a community and they are interested for whatever reason you join them, but they're shitty people, it's like, okay, again, why am I here?
This
That
is
answers your question.
I like
interesting.
that thought
Yeah,
process.
that is really interesting because everybody seems to have like a similar taste here. Like Chris, Red, and myself, we don't share a lot of the same interests in video games, yet we still became really close friends. And yourself included, you and I don't share a lot of the same interests in video games, yet we still became extremely close friends.
Mm-hmm.
So just like talking about this community that you're in, what what keeps you here? Is it the people then? 100%?
Yeah, definitely. If I had to say reason, I wouldn't. If I had to say the main reason, it wouldn't be games. Definitely the community and like the people and the bonds we built. I would say so. I
I
feel like that's important than games to me.
unless anybody else wants to ask Eden anything, that's about all I wanted to know.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Thank you
Sure,
for.
Doc. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I hope you enjoy your game of League of Legends.
For sure. Catch you
Yeah.
guys later.
I love you. Bye.
Yeah.
Love you
Bye.
all. Later.
I always say love you bye to Eden every single time. All right, I love you bye. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this heartfelt, emotional conversation. I guess the consensus of this episode is a lot of people misattribute gaming. There is a much deeper connection that is misunderstood by the normal community.
It's very personal to a lot of people.
Yeah. I don't know what I would do without this community. Like when we lost this community, it was one of the hardest things I ever had to face. I mean, obviously, like loss of life and things like that I've had, trauma and cancer and things like that were very difficult. But knowing that that community was gone was very difficult.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything you want to say?
I appreciate the community for what it is. I love my homies.
Yeah.
Love you too, homie. Yeah, so if you guys want to join the community, feel free. Discord links down below. Just note the rules are kind of strict. We like to get to know people and everything like that, and there's a lot of stuff that won't be tolerated. Um, and that's just the way it is, you know. Like you gotta stick to your guns sometimes to make sure you meet the right people.
You gotta keep your friends safe, man.
Yeah, like I don't want one of you guys. Obviously, that wouldn't happen to you guys as owners and admins, etc. But like being spammed and things like that. That's just no. We don't
Yeah, no.
Spam bad. Don't
spam.
like it.
Yeah, like gone. Bye. Like there's a what people need to understand is like there's an opportunity to join a community like this that is extremely close and make amazing friends. Potentially, I'm not going to say you will 100%, of course, because your personality might not fit in 100%. That's just life. But you know, if you're gonna try, you know, spiting that chance is never gonna help you. So don't be a toxic gamer.
Yeah.
Also, just don't be toxic in general.
Yeah. Yeah. Just don't be an asshat.
Asshat. What year is it? Oh my god. Silent Hill was a good game.
No, stop. It was a good game, but